Hey, welcome back. Today's video is the first episode in I Bought This Thing. Because I buy stuff all the time for shooting, like most of you do. As a matter of fact, I'm always buying something or another. I've either worn something out, need to replace it, or think there might be the next best thing out there. Today's video is going to be about reloading processes and how you can make them more efficient by thinking just a little as you work your way through problems. Now, as a YouTuber, I have kind of a unique situation here. Sometimes manufacturers give me things. Sometimes I just buy things. This particular series is about stuff I bought with my own money at retail prices. I won't be doing any sponsored content in this particular series. If I have sponsored content, I'll mark it for you so you can tell when I'm showing you something that I was given or loaned, because that's only fair to you. At the same time, when you're doing any kind of a content like this, you run into a situation where you can show a product and people assume you recommend it because you showed it. Well, that's not always true when I have a product in hand. Sometimes I get a product in here and I just don't like it. In those cases, I'm just not going to make videos about them because ultimately, I think it does the industry no good to make negative content about products just because I don't like them. So back to today's video. Today's video is about solving a reloading problem by buying a new product. What's that problem? Volume. The amount of volume of ammunition required in PRS is significantly greater than that of F-class. For example, in F-class, there were only 2 matches a year where I needed to have more than 200 rounds on hand to go to the match. On the other hand, at PRS matches, 200 rounds won't get you all the way through a 2-day match. You're going to need even more than 200 rounds. So I tend to load quite a bit of ammunition on a regular basis in PRS, not to mention the practice requirements. You're going to go through a lot of ammunition in practice, even at the top levels of the game. The guys that are shooting really well and winning Pro Series matches are shooting a lot of practice, from what I can tell. So what does that mean for my reloading? Well, we all know that I load on a single stage press, but that's not the choke point. When you start doing a time study of the work you're doing, you have to look at what's consuming the most time for any given batch of ammunition. And that particular step is my case cleaning step. Vibratory case cleaning in corncob media is consuming a lot of time when we think about the volume of brass. For example, it takes approximately 2.5 to 3 hours for this Frankfurt Arsenal case cleaner to clean 100 pieces of 6.5 Creedmoor brass or 120 pieces of Dasher brass. Now, if I'm doing like 223, it could be 200 cases. Either way, it's a 3-hour runtime. Now, if I'm doing 6.5 Creedmoor, I have 300 cases and I typically do all of them at the same time. So we're looking at 9 hours of runtime, in addition to load, unload, and media separation time. That's a lot of work that has to get done in order to get brass from dirty back up here to get powder, primer, and bullet put back in it. So we're consuming the vast majority of our time right there. And I'm talking about just calendar time, not my actual time. When this thing's running for 3 hours, I'm not out there watching it. I'm doing other things, but at the same time, it's consuming a lot of time when I need to get that ammunition from the dirty state back to the clean and loaded state. Because sometimes I only have 3 days between when I fire the brass and I need to have it back in hand traveling somewhere for a match. If I consume 2 of those days doing brass cleaning, I'm creating a problem for myself that can be pretty easily resolved. So the first thing that I considered was adding an additional vibratory case cleaner. That way I could do twice as much brass at one time. But thinking about the 6.5 Creedmoor where I have to do 3 batches, that's still 6 hours. I didn't save myself a whole lot of time, and I spent some money doing it. And I said, well, why don't I buy 2 of them? Then I can run all of them simultaneously for 3 hours. Well, that would work, but now we're spending enough money that other options become viable. And the most viable option that I found, looking and scouring over the internet, was this vibratory case cleaner from Dillon Precision. Now, this was not given to me. I bought this with my own money at full retail, so it was $300 plus shipping plus sales tax. We were about 3.5 by the time it got to my house, which is significantly more than buying 2 more of these Frankfurt Arsenal case cleaners. But my experience with Dillon has always been good as far as power is concerned. And their advertising is that they can do 550 30-06 cases in 1 hour. And I thought, I'm trying that. But I don't have any 30-06 cases. So upon receiving the unit, I noticed that this thing is an absolute moose. So I loaded it with 500 284 cases that are just dirty off the ground and ran it for 1 hour. Sure enough, they came out slick and clean, completely taken care of. The only problem is separating them from the media. This is a nightmare. This thing is so large, you can't pour it through a strainer like this, or even get it into your RCBS squirrel cage media separator. You're going to need a special solution for this problem. Now, Dillon makes a solution for this problem. It's about $135 plus shipping and tax. Then you got to start thinking like an engineer. Am I going to store the media in the bottom of an open container in my shop somewhere? Well, the humidity around here in the wintertime gets pretty high, and I don't want that media just exposed to the weather inside my garage. So we're going to have to store it in a 5-gallon bucket like we always have, which means I have to pour it from the bin into the 5-gallon bucket. Another transfer, another opportunity to make a mess. And the goal is to put it in the 5-gallon bucket. So why don't we just do that from the beginning? Off to the hardware store I go and come up with this. This is a dust separator for a 5-gallon bucket that's used for woodworking. Now, this does a really good job of separating the media from the air so that none of the media ends up in the shop vac. This little cap prevents the brass from going up the hose and gives us an opportunity to do this. Now, I set this up so that you could see it. I threw 200 6-dasher cases into the unit and shook them for about 15 minutes just to get everything mixed up good. So it'd be a nice, messy situation like you would have when you're reloading. Turn the vacuum on and suck the media out of the bowl. From there, I can use my RCBS media separator to finish the job. It happens to fit just under the lip of this bowl, so I can transfer brass directly from one to the other by hand without spilling any on the floor. Separating that out, I can use a vacuum cleaner to clean it out too. And there we go. We have brass that's clean, we have media separated, and all the media is in the 5-gallon bucket where it belongs without making a mess on the floor and not requiring me to vacuum the garage floor when I'm done to pick up lost media. So guys, I bought this thing and it's great. It does the job very quickly, and yes, in 1 hour it takes all the lube off of the cases. I did a mixture of 223 Remington, 6.5 Creedmoor, and some other cases all at once the other day, cleaned it out with a vacuum, and it was a quick and simple process that took about an hour and 20 minutes from start to finish. Now I have to think about whether single stage is the right answer on the long term. So in the end, I really like this Dillon 2001 unit. It works great for what I need. And at the same time, using the media separator with a shop vac in order to get all the media out of the bowl is my optimal solution for cleaning up the mess without having to buy a reloading specific tool to do it. All right, guys, until next time, shoot straight. Think about your processes and how they can be made better through just a little bit of thinking like an engineer. I'll see you in the next video.